I'm going to expand my reading list for the morning over to abstinence. This is members of OA sharing their experience strengthens hope. And this is Overeaters Anonymous literature. The preface. This book is a collection of stories and essays on the topic of abstinence. All were written by members of the Overeaters Anonymous Fellowship and were published between 1989 and 1993 in Lifeline, OA's monthly magazine. The opinions expressed are those of the individual writers and do not represent OA as a whole. Their words are not intended to give a definitive or ideological answer to our questions about abstinence. Rather, they represent to us many different examples of experience, strength, and hope. Whether you are a long timer with many years of abstinence, a member struggling with recovery or relapse, or a newcomer to whom the subject of abstinence may still be a mystery, may you find encouragement, help, and direction within these pages. And that's exactly what I'm seeking. So let's just start with the first one. And I'm just going to include this in my morning surrender work, my morning surrender and meditation work. So I'm going to read one person's story, and these videos are going to be a little longer, but not a whole lot of comment. I'm just going to read what abstinence from OA and the experience of the members that were published here. I'm going to read their thing and then move on and publish that. So I'm going to read abstinence, and I'm committed to reading through the whole thing until we're done, however long that takes. And then I'll do a separate video for food for thoughts. But anyway, so let's do this first one. So the first published experience for abstinence is from Roseanne S. OA's founder explains how the concept of abstinence emerged. It's interesting. So now I know who the founder of OA is, Roseanne S. Cool little history. I'd like to learn more about her. Anyways. 1962. Oh, and by the way, Wink's back. Hey, baby. Wink is almost always a part of this morning ritual of surrendering and finding guidance. And so, 1962. Abstinence enters OA. Eager for information about our early years, members frequently ask me, how did the idea of abstinence come into OA? Was it always the way it is today? How did it start? Looking back, the years from 60 to 62 were exciting for us. We were so impulsive, so eager to see our tiny fellowship grow and establish a firm foundation. By 1962, we were united about the wording of our 12 steps and 12 traditions. In other areas, however, we all had different ideas on how to achieve our common goal. Consider food intake, for example. Before 1960, most of us had grown up counting calories. We had been taught that as long as we had kept within our calorie count, we could eat all the barely caloric foods we wanted between meals. Our problem was that while many of us had lost weight, even more were nibbling their way back to obesity. Others were sticking with their diets but crunching all day on the low-cal foods. Many just stayed fat, insisting they were only eating allowable foods between meals. Something crucial was missing. What was it? The 12 steps worked for our Alcoholics Anonymous friends. What were we doing wrong? During those years, I was going to AA meetings every week. Although not an alcoholic, my understanding of these steps and traditions was so limited, I believed I could learn more by attending AA. In early 1962, one powerful AA meeting changed my way of thinking about eating. All through that meeting, the speaker emphasized abstinence from alcohol. During the 2 years I had contact with AA, I had never heard sobriety referred to in that manner. It was a revelation. Sitting in the back of that meeting, I thought to myself, that's what's wrong with all of us in OA. We're not abstaining from food at any time of the day. We have to close our mouths from the end of one meal to the beginning of the next. Sometime during the day, we must abstain from eating. Otherwise, we're feeding our compulsion. Excitedly, I brought my new approach back to OA. Some thought it was a breakthrough, others scoffed. By spring of 1962, we counted 19 OA groups, most of them in California. The OA office was in my little dining room, and I was the unofficial, unpaid national secretary. We had already had our first informal meeting of the Los Angeles area groups. Now we agreed it was time to have a real conference of all OA groups. Therefore, in May of 1962, I sent out an Overeaters Anonymous bulletin, forerunner to today's Lifeline, to all OA groups. It introduced secretaries and the group starters to one another and mentioned the proposed conference. Then on page 3 of that first bulletin came the announcement that we would both unify and upset us for decades. And this is a quote. Out of our regular visits to AA meetings and talks with our friends in Alcoholics Anonymous, we here in the Los Angeles area have discovered a concept that has revolutionized our way of thinking about our compulsive overeating. That concept is abstinence. Abstinence means simply 3 moderate meals a day with absolutely nothing in between. It means also no meals while we're preparing a meal, and no meals while we're cleaning up the kitchen afterward. In other words, total abstinence from compulsive eating. Now, more quotes. If for medical reasons our doctor has ordered more than 3 meals a day, then of course we would plan accordingly and know that anything outside that plan would be breaking abstinence. Of course, black coffee, tea, water, and non-caloric beverages of any kind are the exception to between the meal nibbling. Drinking is not eating, for the most part. And that was me. That wasn't the text. More quotes. Just as the alcoholic must totally abstain from alcohol to remain sober, so we have found we must totally abstain from compulsive eating to maintain our kind of sobriety. We call those who have achieved this kind of sobriety abstainers. And more quotes. More quotes. There are no musts to any part of the OA program. Indeed, our 12-step program is only a suggested plan for recovery. Therefore, we aren't saying that abstinence is a must. We're only passing on to you what we have learned from our own experience. That with abstinence from compulsive eating, we have at last found the true meaning of sobriety for the compulsive overeater. In 1962, this was a brand new idea for us. Since the word abstain means to stay away from, it seemed clear that to be abstinent in OA meant to stay away from compulsive overeating. How to do that? Since we must eat, the most logical method would be to eat only at meal times. That means 3 moderate meals a day, more if health needs require them, and absolutely nothing in between. End quote. Unfortunately, over time, Abstinent took on a new meaning and a corruption of the original. Instead of implying to stay away from, it came to suggest the eating plan itself. What's your abstinence? One member would ask another. What the person really meant was, what's your eating plan? With this confusion, it's no wonder the word abstinence has come to mean different things to different people. With the time, will the time come when we all understand that the concept of abstinence is the same for everyone, to stay away from compulsive overeating? Can we recognize that it is the eating plan which may be different from one person to another, perhaps different for an individual at various times of his or her life? In 1962, my unexpected insight was difficult to grasp, even harder to put into practice. Today, it is no easier, but we can meet the challenge. Together, we can climb those 12 steps to recovery, abstaining from compulsive overeating one day at a time. So that's the first message of experience, strength, and hope on the topic of abstinence from Roseanne S., OA's founder. I don't think I put that together that was the founder the first time I read through this. So cool. That's it. Have a great day. I'll do another one tomorrow.